Well, good afternoon. Hey, Mr. Host, how are you?
Good afternoon, Dr. Laurie Davis. It's Doug Smith broadcasting from Ottawa, Canada. Great to have you here, Laurie. You're looking fantastic.
Well, thank you. Not bad for an old girl after some surgery, right?
Wow, we talked about that recovery, and
I
I
know.
don't even think about it anymore.
It's old
It's
news, man. It's old
old
news.
news. You're on the rise again. We're talking about recovery and performance on this show. Not just athletes, right? But
No.
we do have some really cool athletes. You got to watch these previous shows. But today, we're excited to have Dr. Vic from Apollo
Oh,
Physical Therapy Centers. And, you know, living on the cutting edge of healing is where people that are hurting want to live. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
I mean,
Mhm.
and this we're going to be talking about some of that cutting edge healing and how to treat people. And you felt the love when you were in the system too, right? And how powerful caring about the other person is, right?
Absolutely. So many people are always whining, if you will, or complaining about the system's broken, the healthcare system isn't working. Well, that's true to a certain degree, but there are very good people inside the system. And that's who got to take care of me, which I really was grateful for and appreciated because it was an emergency situation and there was nothing in alternative care that was going to fix what was wrong with me. And, sometimes we have to rely on our conventional professionals to take care of us. And I was very blessed to have an amazing surgeon and a team of nurses. I was in a specialized unit, and we were able to unblock my small intestine, which had grasped itself into my appendix surgery from when I was 5,
Mm.
onto that scar
20.
tissue.
That's 20 years.
Oh, thank you. 20, 20, 20, and 10.
Wow. So this is going on with things were stuck together.
For 70 years. And that opening just got smaller and smaller. And I've always had digestive issues. And I thought, well, nothing serious, but, a little tummy ache here. I ate too much cheese. My food was too spicy. But anyway, that's then and this is now. So I can't wait. I don't want to hold up Dr. Vic any longer because he has so much to share with us.
Yeah,
And
looking forward to it because we're all trying to recover or we're trying to
Mhm.
perform better. If we're in pain, we're trying to get out of pain. We're
Right.
always on an upward journey, and so the central nervous system is key to this. So we're going to talk to Dr. Vic and about what he's creating here in Ottawa. Bring him
Well,
on
let's
in.
just yeah, well, let's just bring him on in. I don't want to hold up and use up his time any longer. Good afternoon, Dr. Vic.
Good afternoon.
Hey, Vic.
How are you guys doing?
Excellent.
Well,
How was
we're
your
doing
day
good.
today?
Um, the day was amazing.
Yeah.
I had an action-packed day with a lot of meetings with team members and just really seeing where we're heading in healthcare right now. And I'm really excited.
Oh, fantastic. We can't wait to hear about it. I know you've been putting together a team out there at Apollo Physical Therapy Centers, but this is more than just about, one location in Ottawa. It's about an education more so, right? Than anything. Tell us about where you see things going for all of us because we're all affected by the healthcare system right now.
Mhm.
Yeah, through my own journey and what I've been through myself, it came down to stresses in our body and how stress actually impacts our system. And looking at it from that standpoint, because we've been talking about stress for a very long time, but it's not a clear picture as to how stress really impacts our being. And if we don't fix stressors that are acting on our body, then our body goes into an alarmed state. And when we're in an alarmed state, we go from being functional, really reactive, to slowing down, to going into a freeze state, right? And in a frozen state, we can't do a whole lot. It's paralyzing.
Mhm.
However, it's such a creeping thing that comes about over a period of time that we brush underneath the rug. Oh, this is okay. That's okay. This is okay until it's a problem.
Mhm.
Right. And when it becomes a problem, then it's so much harder to fix. But because no one is really talking about all of those things, because we're not aware that they're a problem. We just kind of
Can't
chalk
see
it up
them.
to
Mhm.
age or a progression of things. Oh, it's just the way that it is. I mean, I had a whole bunch of health issues as a kid, but because I was happy and I had a positive environment, those negative things really never registered with me until later on. And I'm like, holy geez, these are problems actually that I was facing at that given time. And then later on, found out all of these issues really affect me, right? But it's until I
Well,
got that awareness, we're not talking about it.
exactly. Well, that's like me, Dr. Vic. I had tummy aches. I had bowel situations. I thought, oh, I'm getting older. I've got a lactose intolerance. I can't eat too much cheese. I was constantly justifying it all when in fact there was something seriously going on.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it's not something that we can actually consciously control in a sense. When that nervous system comes, I mean, I just kind of look at it as why it's labeled as a nervous system. It gets nervous,
Hmm.
right? And so we have to make sure that we are feeding it proper information so that it's not in that state of nervousness, so that it knows itself. And then this comes down to the chats about like self-worth. And if our inside is not knowing self, then our belief becomes less of self. When we're
Absolutely.
less in that nervous state and knowing self, our belief in self deepens,
That's
right?
correct.
And so it's feeding the brain and the central nervous system proper information, food, and awareness of its surroundings, and belief in what we are so that we can output more. But if we keep it to just an exercise, then it's not looking at the mothership, which is the central nervous system. It's just
Hmm.
looking at muscles and bones and how they move. Last time I checked, all of my psychology, all of my organs, all of everything is connected and it works together. Right.
That is
So we have
correct.
to look at it as a whole and what's controlling all of that. And that
Hmm.
is our central nervous system.
And I like the way you frame that, because you just framed it as though it's just one central nervous system, which I love that. But there's actually three if you want to separate them out, right? Like maybe you could explain what the three nervous systems are that we're dealing with and that we manage in different ways, right?
Right. The central nervous system, its primary food is what's called proprioception, the body's ability to know its position in space. And that's what feeds the brain. And then from there, it can output, right?
So
However, when that,
vertigo, may I just on that point, vertigo is one of those things that happens because of lack of proprioception.
correct. So we need to then increase that food to the brain. So one is through movement in certain patterns of how muscles were designed in order to bring that food to the brain. In doing that, when you move the muscles, it moves the joints also. Joints bring a lot of information to the brain, right? And so through that process, we can really feed the brain in lighting up the map of where it is. Then we have the upper part of the central nervous system that now is our safety mechanism. So it's our eyes, our ears, our balance centers, our taste, our facial expressions, our jaw, and our neck movements. These are all primal. And these feed information into the brain and tell it where it is, what is happening, are you safe? It's like a Tesla bringing in information to its processor, right? Of its tires, of its sensors of distance, of its cameras. But now, if some of those go off, like for example, I get a warning if mud is covering one of the cameras, then it'll say, okay, I'm not receiving information from this area. And so it can't make its best judgment.
Mhm.
And that's what happens with the brain as well, is that when it's not getting that sensory input, then it goes into a panic response or a fight or flight response. And this is what affects what's called our autonomic nervous system, which is
Which
our
is the third,
defense.
which is the third one, right? And in no
Right.
particular order.
No particular order, but we have the autonomic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system is then our stress response. And it is deciding whether I am capable of surviving in this environment and fighting, or is it best that I might get eaten or beaten up or whatever it is and I should flee, or I'd use other words, but get out of here. Um, right? And in that process, the body goes through what's called a sympathetic response. So heart rate increases, breath increases. It brings blood from the digestive system to the muscles because digestion is not important right now. It's more of getting out of here and explosive energy. So that is what we're intended to do, and do that very rapidly. So adrenaline is released, we have cortisol release, but then when we're in that stress response for a long period of time, then it becomes a problem and creates an inflammatory response in the body,
And
right?
inflammation, very, very bad.
Oh, it is the worst. And that is the ultimate killer in our body because we are now drowning out our neurological system. It's
It's
short
like putting
circuit.
out a match. It's like putting out a match, right, Vic?
It
It's like
is
putting your fingers over a match.
100%, or it's lighting all at the same time on fire. It's one and the same. Because if everything is on fire, we don't know what is on fire, where, at any given time because it's all on fire. Or it's completely out and we have no awareness of it. Right?
Wow. That
So
explains a few things to me.
okay.
You know, working in, I've done a lot of years in marginalized communities where there's tons of stress. You know, they have one death, they don't get over that, and there's another one. And it's like ongoing grief, ongoing drama, ongoing crime. And that just woke me up here, Dr. Vic, with, yeah,
I
that
call
whole
this
concept.
condition candy.
Oh, okay.
Chronic autonomic nervous dysfunction.
Oh, and it's right there in the bowl, right? You can have as much of it as you want.
Oh yeah. And we mask it, right? Because we want the short-term happinesses. And we
Yeah.
eat lots of candy.
Yeah.
Right? So, but it's a matter of these three stresses that activate that. One
Right.
is physical stress or trauma that we've gone through that is now creating a short circuit of our physical function and information going to our brain. Then we get the mental emotional trauma, which then creates a subconscious autonomic distress of some sort in behaviors. Then we have a chemical stress, whether it's from dietary, so foods that we're eating that are inflammatory or not, or environments of mold and these sort of things that affect our body. And so our body is just so fine tuned with its sensors that when these things start going off, then it goes into an inflammatory response like allergic reactions, right?
Wow, and not just useful for athletes who want to really perform better, but from the recovery standpoint, without this, your body's just not going to respond to any other treatments that are applied.
Well, what ends up happening is the autonomic nervous system oversees the enteric nervous system, which is our gut. So if our autonomic nervous system is on fire, no matter what we do from diet perspective and whatnot, actually the only thing that can actually help that in that state, in my opinion, is intermittent fasting. because now we shorten the period of stress in the body. So it has a higher chance of recovery. And so what we need to do is address the autonomic distress first, and then the gut issues then come to subside. But it is essentially in charge of the gut system, the autonomic nervous system. So it's kind of a hierarchy in how it works. And so when we get an inflammatory response in our body, we actually start getting diminishing effects of our cell wall, which is electrical, because there's ions that go back and forth, sodium and potassium, which creates like an electrical charge. But when we get an inflammatory response, then what ends up happening is that gradient changes, and then because of acidity and basic, and so what ends up happening is it starts seeping fluid outside the cells, so it creates dehydration, and now we get extracellular fluid. And extracellular fluid now is beyond that barrier of electrical charge, so now it starts interfering with the electrical charge of the body. And so now it starts short circuiting, where now electrical charge is going through all that fluid rather than down its designated path of electrical conductance. So now we start getting conditions like MS, where the body thinks it needs to get rid of the fat that insulates the nerves in order to increase conductivity. But that ends up screwing up things even more, because that's not the problem. It's the fluid that's there is the problem.
Introducing Veteran House Alliance International Monthly 50/50 Raffle. Purchase your ticket today, link on display, and have a chance to win cash and help a great platform supporting veterans.
Wow.
And so the amazing thing about what you're talking about from my world, Dr. Vic, is that, Dr. Northoff in Neurowaves, talks about treating just that, treating the central nervous system and getting our eyes off the physical, what we see from the physical body. And so it seems like not only in your area, but in the medical field, in the neuroscience field, in the philosophy field, in the world of psychiatry, everybody's looking this way. So what are you doing now to present this to the world in an organized fashion? There's not just you that knows this is the way it works. Like, the three of us are on board, and there's a lot more of us out there that agree with this. But making the change to affect millions of people, that's a different mindset. How do you see that occurring?
I mean, education is number one. It's the mindset in which we're looking at this. If we continue to look at our being as a chronicle age continuum of I'm getting older, I am going to die. Well, I am going to get older and I'm going to die. Right? Wherever we put our mindset is where we're going. We're not taught that this phenomenal being has an ability to heal as long as we find a root cause of what is occurring. Right? And our biological age doesn't necessarily have to follow our chronological age. It's as long as we are bringing high currency information to our brain food, so that it can properly process and output. Right? So first of all, one of the steps is looking at how we're moving. And are we moving? Really, we don't need to be running on a treadmill for hours on end, or running kilometers and kilometers, right?
Mhm.
Out of that pattern of running, I would have to say most are running in a altered pattern of movement. However, if we run it enough times, like a million times, we'll hit the right pattern probably 50 times at least out of that million. But the rest of the 950,000 is repetitive strain on our body.
That makes
Right?
sense. That I wish you would have been there for my practices with Scotty Bowman. That would have helped a lot.
Whoops.
Wow, we've never seen that happen before.
No, but,
Maybe Dr. Vic's got a dead battery, but holy cow!
well, he could have a little internet drop. Here he
There
is.
he is. Look at that. He comes, he goes, he moves around.
I just teleported. I'm back.
You bet.
Sorry, it happens sometimes.
That's
no.
okay. That's okay. Well, just on that note of aging, somebody asked Clint Eastwood, you're 93, you're still making movies, you're still working. When are you going to retire? And he said, well, you know what? I have just never let the old man in.
So
And
good.
I'm the same way. I'm not letting the old woman in. I just turned 75 in July. I am not letting the old woman in.
Yes. That is the best way to live.
She can
Or
recover.
just to never let the child die.
That's right. That's right.
And she can recover from major surgery at 75 like that.
You're bouncing back.
Yeah,
Oh,
like
yeah. And I had cancer 2 years ago, and I said, "What are you talking about? I've got cancer? I don't think so." Cancer. The only
power
people
of belief in the mind.
Right? I said, "Yeah, okay. Well, if I've got cancer, get rid of it the quickest way you know how." Gone.
Yes. Yes.
No chemo, no radiation, no medication, no painkillers, no anything. Wow. Come on, people. I'm with you, Dr. Vic. I'm all over it.
So how can people
you look amazing.
Thank you.
So
all the guys that are, Cher's 78, her boyfriend's 38. I told my husband, Ron, he's 83. He's in pretty good shape too. I said, you know what? When you go, next time it's younger. But then they'll probably be more unhealthy than I am. So, age. Yeah. Just a little humor there.
I couldn't believe it. Someone asked me the other day, how old are you turning? And I couldn't even believe it because I've lost track. I honestly feel like I'm in my 20s. Right. And then when someone asked me, then I was like, okay, I'm turning 47 this year.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like,
well, you don't look it.
Okay. Amazing.
And I don't
I'm
feel
75.
it, that's for sure.
You're 47, but medically, where are we? That's our chronological age, you see. But I know lots of younger people who are way sicker than I am.
Well, and your ability to bounce back, because of what because of what your mind knows, your ability to bounce back and recover from things is magnified, right? And it's not just that. It's if you're an athlete listening to this show, or you've got some type of issue you got to get over with respect to your physical movement. If we're talking about athletics, use this to leverage your physical ability, because it's not the physical piece that comes first. There's stacks of scientific studies to show us that the brain leads the body and the brain heals the body. And so what's happened over the last 10 years, in my opinion, is technology is catching up. Like that new piece of technology, Vic, that you showed me, it came with a poster and Tesla's on the poster, right? I mean, this is happening. Like this technology that we're looking at and that you're bringing into your clinic, it looks phenomenal. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, it goes to show that this is something that's not new. Things that we've known for so long, but now it's into technology that we can use. And it may have been a concept before, but now it's reality. And it's just phenomenal. We got our PEMF machine, PEMF, P-E-M, as in Mary F. It's pulsed electromagnetic fields. Essentially, what this technology does is it mimics the Earth's natural resonance and frequency at a magnified level, where the core of the Earth is charged by lightning. If we didn't have lightning, Earth wouldn't exist. And it charges our core, and then with that core, it actually promotes like white blood cell activity in our body and promotes healing. So it's an anti-inflammatory effect. And as well, that charges our cells, that cell charge that I was talking about on the outside of cells. And so when the cells are charged, then it holds the hydration of the cell, and it promotes increased energy production or currency of energy, which is ATP, and mitochondria function. So it actually improves our energy of our being. And so that's why we feel that way when we go out into nature or hug a tree. We feel grounded
And the
because we are
mito
actually connecting.
the mitochondria is like a little they're little gyroscopes inside your system, right? That they're spinning fast. They create energy, right? At the source.
Yes.
Okay.
And they're the source. And I mean, so to improve that, I mean, I've just recently learned that if we look at the sun directly, it promotes mitochondrial function. Or if we test ourselves with like cold showers, with that kind of shock, it sparks the mitochondria.
So people shouldn't be getting out of a hot shower and feeling like they're all comfortable and cozy, warm. They should hit it like I do, because I use that technique for 30 seconds. I put it to really, really cold, and it just shocks the system. Anybody out there should try it, but it's not easy in the morning when you want to be snugly warm.
Oh, it's a challenge. I
Ugh.
question it sometimes and try to make excuses for myself, but then I know it's great. And then I turn it on, and it's about regulating your breath in it as well. At first it's a shock, but then it's saying, okay, how do I bring calm in this turmoil? Right? And that's essentially how the body perceives it, and that's how we can become kind of superhumans in this world that we live in, is to bring calm to our stressful environment. But
So
we're not all walking around yogis, to
are
get
you
into
saying
that
when
state.
are you saying when you're holding on underneath that cold water and you're trying to get yourself relaxed so you don't dive out of there, that function for the mind is really, really healthy? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, but it's also not to fight it.
No, I know, but to get yourself from that tense to being under cold water and just feeling your body completely relaxed, is that the mechanism you're looking for, the function you're looking for?
Yes, how can we keep ourselves relaxed in a stressful environment? Is to
Yeah.
We
find
can
peace
condition.
in chaos.
So you're telling me that we can condition ourselves for that, and that would
Hmm.
be one way to do it,
This
Very
is
good.
what yogis do.
right?
Right? Because it's a fear response of our body. It's a fear response of threat. So we go into a protective mechanism.
Cool.
However, if we heighten our self belief and what we can handle, only have it gone through those in our life. Like I have a tattoo here, hardships are the pathway to peace. It's when we go through those hardships, it repositions things in our mind, in our misbeliefs,
Absolutely.
and it brings belief within us. So it's
Nothing
having
like a
gone through these stressful
right.
environments and conditioning ourselves to become calm in
Hmm.
those states. It's like Bruce Lee says, be like water.
Hmm.
So nothing like a brush with death to create that for you,
100%.
right?
My friend told
Hmm.
me a story, and he said, I mean, we've all, I think, been through this, right? When that flashes in front of you, and then you have perspective as to comparative thinking, right?
Mhm.
Or if someone tells you a story that we may not be able to relate to and think is so tragic, that it puts perspective in our mind as to what we've been through in our life, and our story might not be as hard.
Well,
Hmm.
trust me, with that most recent setback with me, I got to lay for 10 days in bed in a hospital and reflect, and it was great. And all I kept thinking about was I'm going to be fine. I'm going to let them do what they do best. I'm just going to relax. There's no laundry, there's no food to prepare. I don't have to take the dog out. Um, because they
Yeah.
told me that if I had laid there another 2 days, I would have passed because gangrene would have set in. And
Oh my
so I
goodness.
was like 2 days away from dying. And I'm not ready, prepared, or willing to even go there yet because I know I have so much more to do.
No way.
So I just,
100%.
yeah. And I just, the doctor said, "Do you realize how sick you are?" I said, "No, I guess I'm really sick. I've been here for 10 days and you don't keep anybody unless they're really sick." So the evidence is there. I can accept that. But as far as, yeah, a brush with death, that'll do it to you. That'll
Hmm.
shock you into some kind of gyro activity.
Oh, yeah. That puts things into perspective, what's important, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I saw Doug's face flash in front of my eyes and I thought, we're not done yet, Doug.
Da, da, da,
So
da.
I can't leave yet.
The Disability Channel would like to thank our existing sponsors. We really appreciate the support and kindness from the BIAs across the GTA, Ontario, Canada, and our friends in the USA. We love making new friends. Thank you for supporting our existing employment programs.
Yeah, like you know what? It isn't it time that before you get into situations like that, or use the techniques that we're talking about to figure out whether you're in a bad situation, or you know what I mean? So the new technology is helping us do one thing really, really well, which is measure, right? And if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So that's how the healthcare system, I think, is going to change. Is there's going to be a swell of technology, a swell of awareness of how to take care of yourself, so that we can lower the number of people that are requiring healthcare. What do you think about that, guys?
Well,
I
I think it
agree. I
sounds
mean,
like a plan.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead,
was
Dr.
just
Vic.
thinking about that today,
yeah,
Doug, where
okay.
just getting excited about, this new form of education and looking at the body, where now we're going to be empowering people to really find that strength inside, so that they find their power,
Hmm.
and really truly start to understand, like, what is this marvel we've been given? Like, how amazing, how it all comes together, all the organs, nerves, arteries, veins, joints, muscles, brain, central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, all of that. How does it come in this beautiful package? I mean, at the beginning, it looks like an elf, but then the baby starts to look nice. But I had three
Yes.
children. I mean, I'm just speaking honestly. But then how it grows and replicates, and it's amazing how it's perfect and how it works all together. But it doesn't come with a user manual. And essentially, what we've been doing as humans is trying to figure this out as to how it works, but how we've been looking at it as a sum of its parts. We're not just the sum of its parts, is how does it all work together, right? And what is controlling it all? And if we start looking at it from a different perspective, a simple way, but a different perspective on how our day to day is affecting it and what it needs as food to bring it back home, then we can allow people to really start to increase their awareness of themselves. What is this function? How do I move? What does it feel like? Registering with themselves rather than brushing it underneath the rug, and empowering people to realize that them knowing themselves is the biggest power.
Breaking down the silos too, like we're seeing that at the highest levels right now in healthcare, and a lot of people aren't aware of this, but the silos that restrict our researchers from talking to one another around the world in neuroscience is really holding up the healthcare system. And it was holding up the cancer issue, and they got rid of the silos and opened the doors and changed the financing models for research. But that's got to happen with neuroscience as well, right? Right, Vic? You see that happening as well, but it hasn't happened yet because it's still a bit of a mess. There's only certain groups, but it looks like if there's going to be this just incredible explosion of knowledge.
Oh, I 100% agree. And I mean, we have to be looking at what controls everything. I mean, yeah, if we start looking at the end result, well, then, I mean, that's kind of when it's kind of too late. We should be working at root cause. What is being affected first? What are the effects of our lifestyle and our environments on our being? And taking it from there, making adjustments there, really holding people accountable. We can't just say it's the system that's the problem and we're dysfunctional. I mean, people have to take action for their own health as well, and holding them accountable and not just saying the doctor is going to cure and fix everything. I mean, I've been to many, many therapists, but ultimately I've had to come to a conclusion and a result by doing my own stuff, and it's self discovery. And so for people to be empowered and to understand how their being works, and for self discovery and knowing that they're part of the problem, and so they have to fix the problem.
And this isn't just psychological, and it isn't just consciousness, it's the physical too, because I'm sure there's some people that are going to hear this that are in physical distress, and they're trying to fix something that people have told them can't be fixed. And it's really important that everybody hear that you're not done yet. If you've got a situation physically that where something doesn't work and it's not working, and somebody's telling you that it will never work again, make sure that you give us a call, please. Right? Because you don't
Right.
want to hang around with those people, right?
No.
There's possibilities. We have to keep doors open. That's how we come to see what the reality of life is. I mean, we have to go and experience. And my experience has been such that my body declined so much to where I felt like I was like 80 years old, 90 years old, to now feeling like I'm 25 again. Just looking at the body differently from how I was taught in school, and just applying simple principles to just give my brain some food to light it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And to adjust with tools like, meditation was one of the best examples, right? There's piles of studies on meditation because in a relaxed state, stress can't exist. So relaxation and stress can't coexist. And so there are simple things that our listeners can do right there at home. And I know you've got a couple in your bag of tricks too, but find a meditation program, and to get a great meditation program, and I'm not biased, my meditation program is phenomenal, and you can get it at DougSmithPerformance.com/relax if you don't have one already. But what are some of the other things that you encourage people that you're working with, people that have suffered bad injuries, to work on when they're not with you?
Being okay with self and within your own presence. I mean, it's really hard in bringing silence. We always want distractions, like the phone, which is essentially a walking TV now. Right? And we always want to be occupied because it's hard to be in your own company for a lot of people.
Mm.
So it's to sit with self for
Mm-hmm.
maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and see what that feels like. Close your eyes. See yourself floating in that darkness.
It's okay to do that, right?
Of course. I do
See,
it every morning.
okay. Well, some
I
people need
get
to hear that.
lost
It's
in my
okay to do that.
darkness, right?
Yeah.
Darkness, I mean, because it's actually physically dark. And in that darkness, I find that glimmer of light. And so it's to always, I ask this universe for not seeing my whole picture along the way and my whole future, but just to put enough light on my next step, just so I know that I'm not falling over a cliff.
Right.
Or heading
Right.
towards
And
one.
so,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
right.
Well, I
So it's
know.
just to,
Go ahead.
No, it's just to then find some degree of path, to some degree of light in that darkness in the morning, and just asking this universe for guidance. But it's really important to appreciate what we have. And oftentimes we're always in the have not process of, oh, I wish I had this, and I wish I was here, and I wish I didn't have this crap happening in my life. But then we oversee like all of the good stuff that we have in our life. Like for me, it's important to reflect that I have amazing kids. They're healthy. I have a great relationship with them. You know, my parents live right behind me. I'm healthy. I have healthy relationships around me. I have a lot of love around me. So I had to reflect on that the other day where I was getting this whirlwind of my mind and just writing out what my blessings are for my life and what I'm thankful for. And I had to remind myself that out of what may have been 4 things before, were now 8 things that existed in my life. And that was a
Oh,
matter of
wow.
like 6 months. And I mean, how many people increase it at that frequency? And so it's important to like remind myself that, you know, what are the amazing things that we have in our life. And so that's something that I encourage patients to reflect on. It was like my one patient, she has her father coming back to live with her. He after her mom had passed, and he'd been going through some dementia episodes, and so that's challenging. But I kind of brought it into a perspective to her of, you know, allowing for this opportunity to help her dad and connect with her dad and see what her power is inside herself to be able to manage this situation, and reflecting on how many of these situations she's gone through in her life and how many she's been successful with. And she's like, holy crap, I've been through so much. I'm like, yeah. And that's just a reminder of how many things you can take on, right? And what you've been going through. So to reflect on how many like stripes we earn in our life, and to know that, you know, whatever comes our way, it's empowering to us, and we find the strength to deal with it and to adjust. And it's then we overcome those fears in our mind. And so it's a step-by-step process in patients' minds, that putting the power back in them and saying, hey, they're spring chickens, you know, let's get them moving again, let's get them doing the stuff that they love to do, right? Because that brings so much joy, and getting that fear out of them.
We welcome you to advertise and promote your goods and services, and or brand your logo to 34 million subscribers on Canada Talks 167. Your investment will go towards our employment programs in the media industry for persons with disabilities and veterans.
Right? It's all misbeliefs that we retract, but then we have to bring back beliefs by convincing the mind of the truth, which is the life that we've lived. So it's reminding self of that.
That's
We
a beautiful way. Go ahead, Laurie,
Yeah,
please.
no, I just a couple of things there, Dr. Vic. When you spoke about gratitude, I'm going to put it up on the banner because about 8 years ago, I was in a film called The Gratitude Experiment. And we had to answer, in order to get into the film, the movie, we had to answer 50 questions on gratitude. That was the screening system that was used. So you might want to stream that. It's a pretty cool process movie. It's part of our product line. And then
Oh,
I
that's
said,
amazing. I'm going to check that out.
yeah, yeah. It was produced by a filmmaker here in Alberta, Doug Vermeeren, and he did a film. And you know, Doctor, there's lots of great people in there. Dr. John Gray, you know, from Women Are from Venus, Men Are from Mars, and Dr. John DeMartini. All the, you know, these head
Okay.
talking people. But I'm in that film too. And then, based on what you're saying, I want to add this banner because I know that Dr. Vic would love our 1,000 workshops we've created to do all the things that you're referring to help people and become empowered. That's our area of expertise. So
Wow.
you're talking about everything that I know for sure is true, 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 true. I love you.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, it creates an energetic resonance, right?
Yes. Yes.
You know, and and it's based on how we want to exist in life. And so it's for what we're projecting out into the universe and into out into our surroundings by our beliefs. And I tell you,
Absolutely.
for the times that I've been in my happiest positive state and thrown out all these seeds for dreams and potentials, they've all come true. But the times where I was in my most worry, I saw the greatest of darkness,
Yes.
where I was no longer throwing out those seeds and I didn't have that belief anymore.
That's right.
Right?
Well, the
So
other
yeah.
thing
it's
too.
the
No, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, go ahead.
We could just talk for hours. That's what I'm feeling. Like if I was in a room with you, I could talk for hours. But the other thing that I've learned in the work that I do, a big part of the sickness and the whether it's mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, there is a certain amount of work for some people that needs to be done to help them know that they actually deserve to be well before they take advantage of any modality. Because a lot of people are out there feeling and thinking and believing that they don't deserve to be well. And so that's where I work. Yes, you deserve to be well, you deserve to be rich, you deserve to be happy, you deserve these things, but that's all around the self-worth component. But actually a lot of people are sick because that's what they think they deserve.
Well,
Yes.
you know, I don't blame people because the society that we've been raised in is that we
No,
always never measure up.
that's
You
right.
know, we never make the mark. And if we're raising our children or we're having employees or we're having and we're a coach to a team, if everyone is never measuring up, then that's what our belief becomes of self, is that I just won't measure up.
That's
You
correct.
know, are we changing the mindset in how we're conducting leadership in terms of an empowering mindset of showing people what their strengths are and as also areas that they can improve on? And that's a much different way of approaching it than just saying, hey, like, get better at this, work harder, because you're just not there yet.
Well, you're working with the space in between people. You're not working with people anymore, almost, because the space in between people is the competitive advantage today. So when you're talking about neuro waves, right, and the power center of the cell, you if you work with the space in between human beings, you it doesn't just double their performance, it triples their performance. So you can turn two people into six just by the way you treat them, and that's from the norm, right? That's from the average.
Mm.
It's absolutely phenomenal. So you can use this technology not to heal yourself, not to make yourself stronger, but you can use it inside your organization to make yourself a better leader. That's the phenomenal scalability of what these new discoveries are. And you know, I'm sure you plan on educating people like about this, Dr. Vic. I mean, it's very exciting.
It's an exponential growth that happens, and that's how energy, when it comes together, it grows exponentially.
Yeah.
And so that antenna just becomes larger and larger, you
Yes.
know. And so that's why I don't compromise the surroundings in my environment. You know, it has to jive and it has to have an energy about it. You know, that culture is so important. Those values of the people that I work with are so important, you know, and then it attracts the same. So all of the patients that come to our clinic
Yes.
they're like-minded. They share same values. They come with respect. We're honest with one another. We care about one another. And this is just what ends up perpetuating more and more. So it's quite a fun place to be.
It's really quite magical. I've been in a few times, and I've been treated by you many times. But just the ability to go in and hang out in a gymnasium type environment and sit on a soft mat and do some stretching and have conversations about health and wellness. Like, it really is that you've created a magical environment, Vic. It's really quite spectacular.
I can't
Thanks,
wait to
Dad.
see it.
Yes, yes. When you're in town now, there's some developments too, at which we shouldn't leave completely aside. But you're interested in an expansion plan, right? But you could talk about where you feel this is going, with respect to people wanting what you're offering today. What's happening in that space?
Yes, Laurie, would love to have you anytime and come to our lab.
I would love
Yeah.
it.
We'll make things happen. So right now, what I'm seeing, I mean, I've been practicing for 21 years now, and what I've seen as a trend is that bodies are becoming more and more rigid, and we're in more stressed environments today, where we're involved with more and more things and more expectations and more responsibilities, which essentially is not healthy for our nervous system. So now what's happening in the end result of that is a highly inflamed state. And with that inflammation, what's happening is we're getting issues that are arising with balance decline in individuals, which becomes a higher risk as you get older as well, where risks of falls can result in like hip fractures, which can make a drastic change in someone's life or result in death. But balance is a real important part of our being that involves a lot of high currency sensory areas of our body to our brain. One being the eyes. So the eyes' involvement in perceiving depth perception and peripheral awareness brings a lot of information to the brain. Now that's one part of balance. The other is the ears, which is a balance center in our body, which brings a lot of information to our brain. And then our proprioception, what we spoke about earlier, which is our bodies or our brain's awareness of our body's positioning in space. And understanding that is very important. So these are the three main things that are involved with balance. So movement is key, as well as eye training is very important, and balance awareness, so that the brain is most awake. So that is one area that we're moving into, and we're seeing a great decline in people who are 40 years plus,
Mhm.
male and women. However, this is starting at a younger age more and more. But I say 40 because at the age of 40, we start hitting really the 5 F's that I've come about, kind of coming up with, which is forgetfulness. We get fogginess. We get fatigue. We start feeling fat or bloated. And then we start giving a middle finger to the world with an FU, right? And that's where we get frustrated. And that is where we kind of, when we're at our wits' end. And so that's kind of balance ties into our inflammatory response. And then it starts affecting our brain function. And we're starting to see a huge decline in cognitive function as that chronological age is happening. Now, I just did a study just with the last 3 months on seeing what the Google searches for cognitive training tools
Mm.
is and was for the last 3 months. And it's increased by 300% in the searches that people are doing for cognitive training. And as we hit an economic decline or we're in it, stress levels are so high in terms of meeting basic needs. And so now, in that stress state or candy, we are now seeing an increase in cognitive decline. Where we're more in that frozen state of being, where now we're not making sound decisions or any decisions, we're just frozen. We're also not moving. And that's a real scary state, because that's when we start to see even a greater decline in our public. So what the great need right now is for training in both these areas. And so I've come up with a program that which is called Brain Champ. And essentially, it's training the brain through eye training, doing balance exercises and balance training, as well as incorporating movements that really light up the brain's map so it can output better, and using technology to decrease inflammation, what we talked about earlier, the PEMF machine. So essentially, what we're doing is decreasing the amount of inflammation that's being created in the body by training the brain for it to feel comfortable in its space, and at the same time to reduce what has been created already as it's been brought into an inflamed state.
What beautifully said. Now, where can people find you? Where do you want to be found? What's the website address? We want to put it at the bottom. Where are you? Just give us your
We
location on
are
the earth.
Apollo, that's APOLLO, P as in Peter, T as in Tom, C as in cat.ca. That's Apollo Physical Therapy Centers. So that's Apollo PTC.ca. And from there,
Excellent.
we have information and educating our forms of treatment and the modalities that we use, and our philosophy, and how we approach healing the body from the root cause.
That's awesome. Well, will you come back? Like, so as things advance and as things develop, because I know you've got these plans for growth. So maybe you can come back, after Christmas and share with us, where things are at and what's happening. Would you do that?
Most definitely. I didn't share today. Maybe we'll leave it as a cliffhanger for the next
I love that.
next
I love
meeting.
that.
But
Yeah.
I'm working on a project to even further this development, and it looks like I'll have something clarified by January. But it looks like in the early new year we'll be gearing up to release our new facility. Maybe past April, just shortly past April, where we'll be introducing more modalities and treatments to really help people really get to see what their potential is and start to understand what longevity is. And that's living long and healthy, which hasn't been the thought process in the past and current.
Well, maybe
Very
I
good.
could be a poster girl.
Yes.
I don't take any
100%.
I don't take any medications for anything.
Beautiful. Awesome.
Wow.
You too could be 75.
Hey, this has been
Looking like this,
Looking like this.
You're looking
Tagline.
great.
Tagline. Great.
That's fantastic. This has been just a postcard show, Vic. I mean,
Yeah,
just
thank you, Dr. Vic.
absolutely incredible. Thank you for coming and sharing this stuff. People need to hear it, and we'll get that message out there to as many as we can. So great to
Thank
see
you
you.
for having me.
Great to see you, and thank you, Dr. Laurie. At the same time, we'll see you guys soon.
Okay. Thank
Yes.
you, everybody. Great
Take
job
care.
there, Doug. Thank you.
Who are you? Standing in the dark, I see your face, but the pieces broke apart. Where are you from? Why are you here? Can you tell me all the secrets that you fear? Lying down a dark, empty road, you.